They say monsters don't live in neighborhoods like ours. Maybe that's why. When the alert pinged my phone at 8:42 p.m., I didn't even flinch. Another stray dog, maybe. A kid cutting across lawns. The cul-de-sac was quiet, the same trimmed hedges and tasteful porch lights we'd stared at for the last 7 years. Still, I clicked it open. The driveway camera blinked to life. Nothing at first. Just the front yard swaying under the wind. Porch light casting a dull yellow halo onto the sidewalk. Then movement from the left edge of the frame. I squinted, leaning closer. A figure stepping into view. Her, Claire, in leggings and a sweatshirt, our black lab tugging at the leash. Hair scraped into a messy bun, sneakers scuffing across the concrete. I frowned. She told me she was just taking the dog around the block. Normal. Boring. The same routine she'd done 100 times. But something about the way she moved, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder, itched under my skin. Claire reached the curb. Paused. The dog sat obediently beside her. Headlights flickered into the frame. A car slowing at the edge of our driveway, barely visible beyond the shrubs. I watched, heart slowing in my chest, as she tightened her grip on the leash, gave a quick, nervous glance back at the house. At me, unknowingly. The car door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, athletic, dark jacket zipped halfway up, face turned just enough to blur into anonymity. Without hesitation, he walked straight to her. And without hesitation, she let him slide his arm around her waist. Not a handshake. Not a brief hug. His hand flattened against her hip like he belonged there. Claire leaned into him, like a plant toward sunlight. And for a moment, they just stood there, in the perfect heart of my camera's view, framed by the place we called home. She said something low. He laughed, bending to nuzzle against her hair. The dog wagged its tail. Then, together, they walked out of frame, her head tucked close to his shoulder. The leash trailed loose in her hand. I sat back slowly, the phone heavy in my palm. The footage looped itself automatically, starting again from the stillness of the porch, from the woman I thought I knew crossing the frame. I watched it again, and again. The first time, I thought maybe it was a mistake. The second time, I told myself maybe it was someone she ran into, an old friend. The third time, I stopped lying. I let the facts line up, neat and simple, the way my mind always did when something broke. She said she was walking the dog. She never took her phone. She left without a jacket, even though the temperature had dropped. She stayed gone longer than usual. And now, she disappeared into the dark with a man whose hand fit her waist better than mine ever did. I set the phone down gently on the kitchen counter. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. The house smelled faintly of whatever she'd sprayed earlier, vanilla, cloying and thick, and it clung to my throat like a warning. In the backyard, the wind rattled the gate. I moved on instinct, crossing to the sliding glass door, peering out into the darkness. Nothing, just the back fence, the outline of the neighbor's shed, shadows stretching long and lean across the grass. I slid the lock into place, turned off the porch light. The dog bowl sat empty by the back door, stainless steel glinting under the fluorescence. I stared at them for a long time. She'd promised she'd feed him when they got back. Promised. I went upstairs, taking the steps one at a time. The master bedroom door creaked open under my hand. Inside, everything was exactly as she'd left it. Her makeup bag unzipped on the vanity. A sweatshirt draped carelessly over the foot of the bed. Our bed, still rumpled from that morning. The imprint of her body on the sheets, like a ghost that hadn't figured out it was dead yet. I crossed to the nightstand, opened the drawer. Inside, her wedding ring, slipped off and tossed carelessly beside a bottle of hand lotion. I picked it up, held it between two fingers, like something delicate and contaminated at once. No note, no explanation, Just absence. Absence that looked like a man she disappeared with. A buzz from my phone downstairs made me stiffen. I retraced my steps, slower now, more deliberate. The message was simple. Claire, walking around the block. Might take longer. Dog's loving it. My lips twitched at the edges. Not a smile. Something colder. I watched the footage again, this time turning the volume up, isolating the faintest sounds, a laugh, muffled against a jacket, a leash clinking against the sidewalk. I paused it at the moment his hand found her hip. Zoomed in. She smiled up at him, wide and easy, the way she hadn't smiled at me in months. And in that moment, the last string inside me snapped, clean and silent. I closed the app, locking the screen, walked to the sink, ran cold water over my hands, the way I'd always done when something needed scrubbing away. There was no confrontation, no impulsive call, no broken plates or fists through drywall. Just facts, just a quiet shift inside me. Tonight, she wasn't coming back the way she left. And tomorrow, when she slipped through the door with some half-formed lie ready on her tongue, she wouldn't find the man she thought she'd left waiting. She would find someone else entirely. Someone who, by then, would already know what had to be done. I slept on the couch that night. Not because I was waiting. Not because I wanted to talk. Because I didn't want her smell clinging to the sheets a moment longer than necessary. The clock blinked 1:37 a.m. when the front door finally creaked open. I heard the soft scrape of sneakers on tile, the quiet jingle of the dog's collar. She moved like a thief, tiptoeing through the kitchen. She didn't call out for me. Didn't wonder aloud why I wasn't in bed. She knew. I kept my breathing even, feigning sleep. Let her stand there, uncertain, the weight of her betrayal dripping from her like the rain outside. Eventually, she padded upstairs. The house swallowed her whole. I stayed where I was, hands folded across my chest, staring at the dark ceiling until dawn. When I finally rose, it was with deliberate slowness. The rituals felt almost religious. Coffee brewed, black, no sugar. Shower scalding hot. Clothes chosen carefully, neutral, inoffensive, forgettable. At 7:03 a.m., I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, the blue-white glow of the screen bleaching my face. I logged into the home security account, pulled up the full archive of last night's footage, downloaded it twice, once to a cloud drive, once onto a flash drive I slipped into my pocket. Then I deleted the original files from the account, reset the cameras to offline for maintenance. I wasn't going to confront her screaming in the driveway like some fool. I wasn't going to beg for explanations she was already prepared to twist. I was going to take everything she wasn't smart enough to hide. The dog wandered into the kitchen, nails clicking on tile. He whined once, nudging my shin with his nose. I reached down, scratched behind his ear. "You're smarter than she is," I murmured. At 8:15 a.m., Claire drifted downstairs. Hair wet from the shower. Face scrubbed fresh. An oversized sweatshirt swallowing her frame, a fake yawn stretching her mouth. She froze when she saw me at the table. "Hey," she said, voice light, casual, trying too hard. "You're up early." I just nodded, kept typing. Her hand fluttered to her neck instinctively, no necklace, no ring. A tell she didn't even realize she was showing. She poured herself coffee, adding an obscene amount of cream and sugar, stirring too fast, clinking the spoon against the mug. So she ventured, without looking at me, "We're still good for dinner with your mom this weekend?" Another test balloon. Another breadcrumb to see how much I'd swallow. I sipped my coffee. Let the silence stretch until it hurt. "Sure," I said finally. "Wouldn't miss it." She relaxed so visibly it was almost funny. Satisfied, she disappeared into the living room, flipping on the TV like nothing in the world was crumbling under her feet. I finished my coffee, washed the mug, dried it carefully and placed it back in the cupboard. No traces, no fingerprints. By noon, I had what I needed. Copies of every financial document she'd left lying around. photos of her receipts, cash withdrawals she thought I wouldn't notice, a list of numbers scribbled on the back of a grocery list, safe deposit box locations. I wasn't sure yet if she was planning to run, but I wasn't going to give her the chance. While she sat cross-legged on the couch, half watching a reality show, I packed a gym bag, 2 changes of clothes, passport, spare car keys. Everything else, the life we built, the house, the wedding photos, the laughing friends and holiday cards, could rot here with her. I moved through the motions smoothly, emotionless. It felt less like betrayal and more like a closing shift at a store that had gone bankrupt long before anyone noticed. Around 3 o'clock, Claire called out from the kitchen. "I'm thinking of picking up dinner tonight. Ties sound good." I met her eyes for the first time since she walked in last night. "Perfect," I said. She smiled, relieved, already dialing the restaurant. An hour later, when she left to pick it up, I stood at the window and watched her car shrink into the distance. As soon as she was out of sight, I grabbed the flash drive from my pocket. Crossed to the neighbor's house, Tom and Jenna, retirees who spent more time gardening than gossiping. I rang the bell. Tom answered, wiping dirt-streaked hands on his jeans. "Hey there, neighbor," he said cheerfully. I smiled, warm and easy. "Hey, Tom. Quick favor. My Wi-Fi's acting up. Mind if I hop on yours real fast? Need to send something important for work." He waved me inside without hesitation. 15 minutes later, the footage was backed up again to a secure third-party server. Password protected. Encrypted. The evidence was beyond her reach now. By the time Claire came back, juggling 2 brown paper bags filled with spicy noodles and spring rolls, I was sitting exactly where she left me, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. "Food's here," she chirped, a little too bright. She set the bags down, her hands brushing mine. I flinched, but turned it into a cough. She didn't notice. We ate in silence, the TV murmuring in the background. She thought she had fooled me. I let her. Let her believe the performance was still working. Let her think I was too tired, too passive, too loving to ever notice her slipping away. I even laughed once at something dumb she said about the dog stealing egg rolls. Fake, but convincing enough to make her eyes light up the way they used to. She didn't know. She wouldn't know until it was already too late. That night, while she slept upstairs, curled into the comfort of a lie she thought she controlled, I sat at the dining table drafting the first moves. Quietly, efficiently, like cleaning out a wound before it festers. Tomorrow, she would go to work. Tomorrow, I would begin dismantling the life she thought she'd get to keep. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to bleed for her. I was going to erase her, piece by piece, until she came home to nothing at all. Claire left for work at 8:12 a.m., wearing her usual black blazer and heels that clicked sharply across the driveway. She kissed me lightly on the forehead before she left. A reflex. A habit. She was already thinking about someone else. I locked the door behind her. No hesitation. No flicker of regret. The first step was the bank. We shared 2 accounts, the checking for bills, the savings we were building for a future that clearly no longer existed. I withdrew my half from the savings without a word. Left the checking alone, full of the auto drafts she would have to scramble to cover. It wasn't revenge. It was correction. The second step was the lawyer. Mr. Hollis had been handling quiet divorces for half the neighborhood for the past 20 years. He didn't ask questions. Just smiled thinly when I slid the retainer across the desk and said, "I want it clean. No alimony. No negotiation. No second chances. Just a simple severance, signed and stamped." "I'll get the papers ready by tomorrow," he said, his voice even, professional. "Good," I said. "I'll need them sooner if possible." He nodded, understanding more than I said aloud. By noon, I was back at the house. Packing wasn't necessary. I wouldn't stay long enough to make it matter. Still, I went through the motions, moving from room to room. In the master closet, her clothes crowded my side, floral prints, silky blouses, shoes lined up with military precision. I didn't touch a thing. Let it all rot. In the bathroom, her makeup was scattered across the counter like a war zone. Tiny tubes, half-used lipsticks, a bottle of perfume that still smelled like the early days of our marriage, sweet, heady, and clinging. I swept it all into a garbage bag without blinking. The last place was the office. Claire almost never went in there. Said it felt too clinical, too much like a place for endings, not beginnings. Maybe she wasn't wrong. The desk drawers were mostly empty bills, old tax returns, meaningless scraps of paper from a life neither of us had really paid attention to. But tucked in the back of the bottom drawer, behind a stack of abandoned holiday cards, was a manila envelope. Unmarked. Unlabeled. Curious, I opened it. Inside were printed emails. Dozens of them. Some from the man I'd seen on the footage, Logan. Others from names I didn't recognize. And none of them were from recent weeks. They dated back nearly 2 years. The correspondence was clinical at first. Planning trips. Coordinating secret meetings. Eventually, it grew darker, talk of waiting for the right time, of finalizing the details. References to money. To assets. To leverage. It wasn't just an affair. It was a full-scale exit strategy. And I was the last obstacle she needed to clear. The phone buzzed in my pocket. Claire, texting. Claire, lunch break is hell today. Hope you're having a better one. I stared at it for a moment, letting the words turn to static in my mind. Then I typed back, thinking of you, and smiled. The last step was the cameras. After what I'd seen, I didn't trust her to walk the dog without scripting another little betrayal. I installed a new camera hidden in the porch light, another under the eaves facing the driveway. None of it for now, all of it for later. Because she thought she was smart. She thought she was subtle. She thought she could live 2 lives, and I'd just be the fool standing between them, holding the leash while she slipped free. But I wasn't interested in catching her mid-act anymore. I was interested in letting her finish the performance, letting her tie the noose herself. Only then would I yank the floor out from under her. Only then would she realize she'd been playing in a game. I stopped losing the moment I saw that footage. That night, I cooked dinner. Claire came home, tired and smiling, wine bottle swinging from one hand. She kissed my cheek, humming some pop song under her breath. Told me about her day, meetings, deadlines, annoying coworkers. All lies. I listened, nodded in the right places. Served her pasta with a glass of wine. Watched her twirl noodles around her fork, oblivious. When she asked how my day was, I told her, quiet. Peaceful. She smiled. Said, I'm glad. Later, she fell asleep on the couch, the dog curled at her feet, a half-finished glass of wine sweating on the coffee table. I sat across the room, studying her. Every breath she took was a confession. Every twitch of her fingers on the blanket an apology she didn't know she owed. Tomorrow, I would let her feel safe. Tomorrow, I would let her believe it was working. And then, when the papers hit her desk, when the accounts froze, when the locks changed, only then would I let her realize the truth. I wasn't the man she was walking away from. I was the man walking away first. And I wasn't going to leave her anything but the echo of the door slamming shut behind me. It started with a knock on the door. 3 short raps. Polite. Almost friendly. I checked the porch camera before answering. A man in his late 50s stood there. Pressed slacks. Weathered leather jacket. A clipboard in one hand. A messenger bag slung over the other. Nothing remarkable. Nothing threatening. I opened the door halfway. Mr. Halston? He asked, voice low, steady. Depends who's asking, I replied. He smiled thinly. Flashed a badge too fast for me to catch the agency. Name's Morris. I'm with DCM Investigations. Private sector. He lifted the clipboard. I'm looking into a matter involving your wife. Claire Halston. My heart didn't race. I didn't tense. I simply stepped aside. Come in, I said. He crossed the threshold without hesitation, shoes clicking on the hardwood. The dog growled low from the living room, hackles rising. Morris ignored him, settling into one of the dining chairs like he'd been invited to a card game. You might want to sit down for this, he said, setting the clipboard on the table. I didn't. I stood, arms crossed, watching. Morris opened the file. Photos spilled across the table. Claire. The man from the footage. Different angles. Different days. Different cars. All taken from a distance, grainy but damning. This your wife? He asked. I nodded once. And you recognize the man? I hesitated. Logan, I said. That's all I know. Morris gave a tight smile. Logan Whitaker. Real name, Logan Pierce. Minor record, fraud, identity theft, couple sealed juvenile charges. Nothing big enough to stick. He flipped another photo into view. It was a house, a sleek, modern build tucked behind hedges and a winding drive. The kind you didn't buy on a salary like Claire's. They closed on this 2 weeks ago, Morris said casually. Cash deal. Both their names on the paperwork. I stayed silent. Morris leaned forward, studying me the way a hunter watches a wounded animal decide whether it still wants to fight. You didn't know, he said, almost surprised. No, I said simply. He nodded like that answered some question he'd been turning over for days. You're not the target, he said. You're the collateral. I let that sink in. Collateral. Like a car abandoned in a chase. Who hired you? I asked. He smiled thinly again, but didn't answer directly. Let's just say you're not the only one Claire underestimated. He slid a business card across the table, blank except for a phone number. When it all comes crashing down, and it will call me. Might be able to make sure you walk away with more than just the shirt on your back. I didn't touch the card. Why help me? Morris stood, slinging the messenger bag back over his shoulder. Because the people who hired me don't just want her exposed. They want her ruined. And you, he said, leveling a look at me, you might just be the best weapon we've got. Without another word, he let himself out. The door swung closed behind him with a soft click. I stared at the card on the table. Not the only one Claire underestimated. That thought stuck to me like burrs. For the first time, I wondered if her betrayal was just a ripple in something much larger. Something she was too arrogant or too desperate to see. I pocketed the card. Didn't call. Not yet. Instead, I went upstairs. She'd left her laptop open on the bed, work files stacked on the screen. A marketing proposal, a spreadsheet, her calendar. I scrolled back 3 months. Appointments littered the weeks. Meetings that didn't exist. Trips that weren't logged. Long lunches with names that didn't match her coworkers. A whole secret life woven into the margins of her real one. And buried between a dentist appointment and a team-building seminar, I found it. 11 a.m., notary meeting. Property papers. The same day I remembered her coming home late, cheeks flushed, mumbling something about traffic. I dug deeper. Found the property records. The house Morris had shown me. A beachside address 3 states away. Their getaway car already gassed and parked. And I wasn't even supposed to know it existed. At 5:30 p.m., Claire came home. Tired. Harried. Kicking off her heels by the door, dropping her bag with a sigh. God, what a day, she groaned, plopping onto the couch. I closed the laptop carefully. Set it aside. Long one? I asked, voice perfectly neutral. She nodded, closing her eyes. I swear, if Marcy dumps another project on me, I'm quitting. I smiled faintly. Maybe you should. She laughed, hollow and quick. I'm not that lucky. The lies rolled off her tongue now with the ease of a lullaby. I sat down beside her, close enough to feel the heat radiating off her skin. Close enough to remember the way we used to fit. You ever think about just starting over? I asked. She opened one eye, studying me. All the time. She thought she was still in control. Still the puppeteer pulling strings. She didn't realize the stage was already burning behind her. Later, after she fell asleep, I went out to the garage, pulled down the attic stairs, climbed into the crawl space where we kept the holiday decorations and old files, dug through boxes until I found what I was looking for. A battered red suitcase, the same one we took on our honeymoon. I dusted it off, unzipped it, and began filling it with everything I'd need for the last act. Not clothes, not memories, just tools, flash drives, key documents. The burner phone Morris had slipped into the business card packet without saying a word. I flipped it open. One number was already programmed. Morris. One call, and the rest of the house of cards would come down around her. I didn't call yet, because first, I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to feel safe. I wanted her to believe she was winning. And when she finally reached for the prize she thought she'd stolen, I wanted to be the one to slap it out of her hands. The papers were ready by Thursday. Neat, simple, unforgiving. Mr. Hollis slid them across his polished desk toward me, his pen already waiting atop the manila folder. Once she signs, it's final, he said. And if she refuses? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She won't. He tapped the stack lightly. With what you have, she'll crawl across broken glass to make this go away quietly. I didn't smile. Didn't need to. The plan was already in motion. That night, I cooked her favorite, lemon chicken, the way her mother used to make it. Set the table. Lit a candle. When she came home, her face lit up in surprise, then flickered with something else. Nervousness, maybe. Guilt. Either way, she hid it well. We ate together, laughing softly over nothing. She asked about my day. I told her it was quiet. She told me hers was chaotic. Another lie. After dinner, I poured her a glass of wine. Topped it off when she wasn't looking. She leaned back in her chair, relaxed, flushed from the alcohol and the easy conversation. I waited until her glass was half empty before I pushed the envelope across the table. She blinked at it. At me. What's this? Open it. She hesitated, searching my face for clues. There were none. She peeled the envelope open with careful fingers. Slid the papers out. Read the header. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost beautiful. I watched her read. Watched her hands tremble. She reached the final page, where my signature already waited. Still silent, she looked up at me. Her mouth opened. Closed. Tried again. I don't understand it. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. You will. Her face crumpled, a crack breaking across the mask she'd worn so well. Is this about work? She blurted. Babe, I know I've been stressed, but we can fix it, eh? I laughed once, soft and sharp. It silenced her instantly. You're good, Claire, I said. Really? I almost bought it. Her breathing quickened. The dog whined from under the table, sensing the shift. I stood, picking up a second envelope from the sideboard. Dropped it beside the first. This one thicker, heavier. Photos spilled out like a deck of poison cards. Claire with Logan. Claire slipping into his car. Claire signing property papers with a notary. Claire, smiling in a hotel lobby under a name that wasn't hers. She recoiled like they burned her. This isn't, she stammered. It's not what it looks like. I picked up the last photo. Her signature on the deed. Next to Logan's. I slid it toward her with one finger. It's exactly what it looks like. Tears welled in her eyes. Real or rehearsed, it didn't matter anymore. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. It got out of hand. No, I said quietly. You planned for it to happen. For months. Years. She shook her head wildly, hair whipping into her face. I love you, she gasped, reaching for my hand. I let her fingers graze mine. Let her see hope flicker in her eyes for one last second. Then I pulled away. You love yourself. The words hit harder than a slap. She sagged against the table, breathing hard. eyes darting around the room like she was searching for an exit that wasn't there. I picked up the final piece. The burner phone Morris gave me. Flipped it open. Pressed send. 1 ring. 2. He answered on the 3rd. Ready? He asked. No, I said. Then I hung up. Claire looked at me, confusion morphing into fear. What did you do? She whispered. I didn't answer. A soft knock at the front door. 3 short raps. Polite. Almost friendly. The same as before. Claire jumped up, panic written in every line of her body. Who is that? She demanded. I didn't move. The door opened. Morris stepped inside, 2 more men in tow, grim, dressed in plain clothes, moving with the economy of people who didn't waste steps. Claire Halston? Morris asked, voice brisk. She nodded, too stunned to deny it. You're being served notice regarding breach of contract, fraud, and misrepresentation regarding property assets tied to Logan Pierce. She staggered back like he'd hit her. What? No, this isn't, Logan said. Her voice cracked. It was a beautiful sound. Morris handed her a thick sheaf of papers. By accepting the property under fraudulent pretenses, you exposed yourself to civil litigation. Your accounts will be frozen pending investigation, and you are hereby barred from selling or transferring any assets until the case is resolved. Her hands trembled so badly the papers slipped from her grasp, fluttering to the floor. She dropped to her knees, scrambling to gather them. Morris turned to me, nodded once. Business concluded. As they left, Claire turned to me, eyes wide with terror. You can't let them do this to me. I tilted my head, considering. Claire, I said softly, crouching down until we were eye to eye. You already did it to yourself. Then I stood, walked past her without looking back. Out the door. Into the cool night air, crisp against my face. Behind me, through the open doorway, I heard her sob. Not the kind of sob that begs for forgiveness. The kind that realizes forgiveness was never even on the table. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The house, the lies, the life she built on sand, was already collapsing. She just didn't know yet that she was buried under it. I stayed at a hotel for 2 nights. Not because I had to. Because I wanted her to sit in the wreckage alone. The first morning, the bank alerts hit my phone like clockwork. Frozen accounts. Flagged transactions. Pending investigations. The life she tried to carve out. The beach house. The secret savings. The new identity. All dissolving into thin air. By noon, the text started. Claire, please call me. I can explain. Claire, we can fix this. I swear. Claire, I didn't mean to hurt you. Claire, please. I'm scared. I let them stack up, one after another, buzzing against the nightstand like dying bees. I didn't open them. I didn't need to. By the second night, she stopped pretending to be sorry. The last message came at 2:16 a.m. Claire, I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. That one, I opened. Read it once. Deleted it without responding. She was wrong, of course. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped holding up the parts she let rot. The next morning, I called Mr. Hollis. Serve the papers, I said. He didn't bother pretending to be surprised. By 3 p.m., a courier knocked on the house where Claire was still holed up, probably sitting in the ruins of her plans, drinking cheap wine out of a coffee mug. She signed without protest. No tantrum, no threats, not even a plea. Just a hollow-eyed nod and a trembling hand scrawling her name across the line that ended everything. By 5 p.m., it was over. Legally, financially, personally, clean, final. I drove back to the house one last time, a rental van idling at the curb. The neighborhood looked the same. Trimmed lawns, polite mailboxes, porch lights flickering on as dusk settled in. It should have felt like coming home. It didn't. It felt like walking through a museum of something already dead. Inside, the house was quiet. The furniture was still there. Photos still on the walls. the faint ghost of her perfume still clinging to the corners. But it wasn't ours anymore. It wasn't anything. I packed quickly. A few clothes. The documents I couldn't leave behind. The dog's leash. The rest. The china she obsessed over. The designer bags lined up like trophies in the closet. The art prints she made me hang perfectly level. I left it all. Let it rot with her. At the front door, I hesitated. Not out of sentiment. Out of habit. Then I knelt down, snapped the leash onto the dog's collar. "Come on, boy," I said softly. He wagged his tail, ready to leave it all behind without a second thought. Smarter than either of us. I stepped out into the evening, locked the door behind me for the last time, dropped the keys through the mail slot without ceremony. No dramatic speeches. No last look back. Just the quiet click of a door closing on a life that wasn't mine anymore. The dog and I walked down the sidewalk, past the houses still wrapped in the illusion of safety. I didn't know where I'd end up. Didn't care. The hotel for a while. Then maybe somewhere smaller. Somewhere no one knew my name. Freedom didn't look like I thought it would. It wasn't fireworks or new beginnings. It was this. A suitcase. A leash. A long stretch of road ahead. And a silence inside me so complete, it almost felt holy. I checked my phone once, out of reflex. No new messages. Good. She was finally silent. Finally learning what it felt like to be alone. As the dog tugged me forward, eager for whatever came next, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't anything. I was just a man who saw the truth too late, but not too late to walk away. Not too late to choose something else. Something quieter. Something real. At the corner, I paused, waiting for the light to change. Across the street, a woman laughed. A sharp, careless sound that reminded me too much of Claire. I turned the other direction without thinking. Some paths you don't walk twice. The light turned green. I crossed, and didn't look back. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.